Hello, welcome back to Frosty's OP. What I'm going to be doing today is covering pretty much the stuff that's happened in May and also the stuff we can look forward to in June. I'm kind of filming this like the last minute because I'm getting on the Queen Mary 2 in a little while. I'm literally just packed my bags and I'll be heading off. I'm doing the Southampton to New York trip on the liner. I've never done it before, so it's kind of exciting. I'm going to take some cameras with me and maybe film some stuff on the way and maybe do a little video about it. I'll have to see how that goes. Now, things for May from a gaming perspective, there's kind of two main things from the kind of gaming that I'm involved in. Kerbal have got a new downloadable content, a new DLC called Breaking Ground, which is very much with the mood of the moment, which is to do with planetary exploration. I haven't played Kerbal in quite a while, so this is going to be a good reason for me to get back into it. Now the DLC became available on May 30th, and as soon as I get back from my trip I will be downloading that and giving that a go. But for me the big thing is 9th of June, 1 PM Pacific time, E3 conference. CD Projekt Red are expected to announce the release date for Cyberpunk 2077. Finally, hopefully, we shall find out. No one's quite sure really whether it's going to be the end of this year, beginning of next year, but those are kind of the two things that are in the ballpark at the moment. Are they going to go for the Christmas kind of release, or are they going to go sort of for early 2020? We will find out on the 9th of June, so that's 1 PM Pacific time, which is about 8 PM UTC on 9th of June at E3. That's kind of the gaming stuff. Now, May and June have been pretty busy for everything to do with space and space launches. Obviously we had NASA, with their Explore Moon 2024. They had the announcement, that they got their extra 1.6 potentially billion dollars in their budget. Explore Moon 2024 became Artemis. We know the spin doctors got onto that, right? That's the only reason I can think of why they would change the name. Obviously with Explore Moon 2024, it's like, we got to get it done by 2024, we're going to have an egg on our face. Let's call it something else. Let's call it something random, Artemis. And they're coming for me. Don't know if you can hear that in the background, but we got police sirens. It's all happening in Nottingham. Oh, it's a fire engine. It's okay, I'm safe. I hope whoever's out there, they're okay. All right, I'm going to plow on as I do. So yes, the other thing as well was obviously NASA announced the 11 companies they're going to get involved in the lunar lander, and I did a lengthy video on that. I hope you'll watch that. We'll pop a link for it here. And otherwise, other pieces of news was NASA also announced right at the end of May that they've picked SSL, which is now a Maxar company, so we'll say Maxar, to do the power and propulsion element of the Lunar Gateway, which is the one of two elements that are going to now be used in the Lunar Gateway for the Artemis program. So the power and propulsion, clearly by its name, is to provide the propulsion and to keep the thing in orbit, and also to provide power for the other modules and for the Orion when it docks and so forth and so on. So SSL, if you've seen my TAPS 11 commentary, they do satellite production, so they're very practiced in producing chassis that have the power and propulsion for space systems. So there you go. So Maxar are going to do that, and now we've got to wait to see who's going to be doing the Habitat module. And I would expect that's going to be announced very soon. As they're ploughing along very fast with this. I mean, another thing that came up as well was that EM1, which is the first mission for the SLS and Orion, which is now called Artemis 1, NASA have announced that they've cut back on the certification on that they had wanted for EM1 to allow it to launch early. So they're going to try and bring Artemis 1, I'll use its proper name, forwards from spring 2020, I think, to late 2019. I think that's right. Let me just double check. I know it was going to be spring 2021, that's right. And then they're going to try and make it late 2020. So clearly they've got to start fast tracking stuff if they need, if they can get Artemis 1 up, get the Orion to do its primary mission, because then they've got to get this Lunar Gateway up before they can do EM2, which is the crewed mission for Orion. So yeah, NASA's got its work cut out. SpaceX clearly were in the news. SpaceX, primarily they did the launch at the beginning of the month for CRS-17, which was the Dragon capsule, which is all cool. But then they had the big launch for Starlink 1, which had 2 aborted attempts. And then the third attempt, it went up fine. And we got to see them launch this stack of Starlink satellites, which was 60 satellites. And everyone was kind of working out how this deployment system of theirs was going to work. And there were hypotheses, there were going to be little springs and everything to push all the satellites away from each other. And from what we saw from the footage, it looks like what they did was just use inertia. And they took the upper stage and just spun it on a yaw, and then launched the satellites, and then an inertia kind of started to pull the satellites apart from each other. And so there was literally no deployment mechanism of any kind. They kind of all just drifted apart. And then the other thing that was interesting with Starlink 1 was that they launched them at 400 kilometers, and then the satellites had to then climb over the next few days up to 500 kilometers. And what was the reason for that? I mean, from the way that I can think, I've got 2 hypotheses. The first was they wanted to test the Hall effect ion thrusters in the satellites to make sure they all operated properly. So they sent them on a 100-kilometer orbit climb. But I think the other hypothesis I have, and I think this is probably the reason, was that this is the heaviest payload that they've carried at 13 tons. And they simply may not have had the capacity to add enough fuel to take it up to 500 kilometers. That there was just too much weight with the fuel, the upper stage, and the 13 tons of payload to be able to carry enough fuel to take it the full distance. So they had to deploy them at a lower altitude and then let the satellites make their own way up to the desired orbit. So there we go. Well, hopefully we'll find out. And if you have any thoughts on that, please let me know in the comments. I just thought it was interesting that they just didn't deploy them straight at 500 kilometers. Now, what else have we got? So China launched a rocket, and it looks like it failed, because in traditional Chinese style, if something doesn't work, then they don't say anything. And the launch took place, and there was no announcement of a successful launch, so one can only presume that the launch failed. Now, they're going to be super busy in June. I think they've got 7 launches in June, 7 or 8 launches. I actually made a note of it. 8 launches, yeah. So China is definitely sending up the rockets pell-mell, and hopefully they will have better luck with the rest of them in June. Roscosmos are keeping busy as well. They've launched some Soyuz rockets. They launched one at the end of May, and it got hit by lightning on the way up, but it did not stop the successful launch and getting the satellite into orbit. It was a GLONASS satellite, which is the Russian GPS system. They were updating, putting up a replacement satellite. Got hit by lightning on the way up, continued on its merry way. I mean, those Soyuz rockets, they're built tough. You've got to give them credit for that. Then also in June, we've got Ariane launching. There's an Ariane 5 launch. India launched in a reconnaissance satellite in May. And then we have, what else do we have? We have another launch here. So Ariane 5, ULA launching in June as well. And Rocket Labs, the rocket that they launched in May worked really, really well. And they've got a new one going up in late June called Make It Rain. So it'll be good to see Electron getting another successful launch. So overall, lots of stuff going on, lots of launches. NASA are releasing press releases on a weekly basis at the moment to do with the whole Artemis program, which is all very exciting. SpaceX, have got lots going on. Obviously the SpaceX launch, there's 2 SpaceX launches in June. The second one is the Falcon Heavy, which is the 3rd Falcon Heavy. And I believe that's launching satellites for the Air Force. What's interesting with that one is that NASA did a NASA social event where they invited people from YouTubers, vloggers, etc. To join the event. Unfortunately, it was US citizens only for this event. Hopefully they'll make it more global in the future. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes down, because primarily normally it's been just the traditional media, but NASA seems to be really involving YouTubers and vloggers now, which is like really exciting stuff. So there you go, so that's a quick little update. and I will be posting more in June when I get back from my trip. And have a good day. Don't forget to subscribe. If you subscribe, click the bell as well so you get notifications, update regularly. And please, please, please leave me comments. I do read them all the time, and if there's any to be made, then I will reply. All right, thank you very much. Bye. Class.
Fly flew right down the back of my throat. Oh, and we're recording.
Spin the camera around.
Sorry.